Okay, so I'm going back to the topic of salary and wages. And why am I going back to this topic? I'm going back to the topic because I have gone through a number of your work, and there are some persons who are still completely lost as far as salary and wages are concerned. I said there are a few things that we are expected to work before we can work somebody's total salary. There are a few things that I need. I need one, the basic rate. I need to have the basic rate. That is how much an hour the person works normally. The basic rate. So if I tell you that my basic rate is $6 an hour. $6 per hour. I said basic, that's my basic pay. I work $6 per hour. I need basic hours or regular hours. Sometimes it can be called regular. Regular hours. And normally, in most working environment, persons work 40 hours per week. But it does not necessarily have to be that. Persons can change it around for different reasons. So I need to have my basic rate. I need to know my regular hours. They will ask you to work out overtime hour. I said they might ask you to work out your overtime hour, or they might give you your overtime hour. So if they tell me that I'm working a regular week, my regular work week is 40 hours, but on this particular week I work 48 hours. This week I work 48 hours. That does not tell me how many overtime hours did I do. I did 8 hours. It means my overtime hours is going to be 8. Overtime hours. When you're working, I also need to get my overtime rate. Overtime rate. Just like how we're talking about my basic rate, I'm talking about my overtime rate. They have to give me, and most times they will tell, well, they could tell you overtime is double time. Double time, which means 2 times the basic rate. Or they can tell me it's time and a half. Which is 1.5 times the basic rate. So in this case, if my basic rate is $6 and overtime is double time, then my overtime rate would have been $12 because it's 2 times 6. 2 times 6 will give me 12. So my overtime rate would have been $12. If they tell me that my overtime is time and a half, it's going to be 1.5 times the 6. 1.5 of 6 is going to give me 9. So my overtime rate would have been $9 if I'm working overtime at time and a half. all we need to do, gentle people, is to simply pay attention to these things and follow the steps. Basic rate, I need to know what that is. Basic hours, I need to know what that is. Overtime hours, I need to know what that is. And as I said, most times I won't just tell you overtime hours is 5 hours. They are going to tell you what is the total number of hours you work for the week, and from that you have to minus the regular hours to see what is your overtime hours. As in this case, I work $48 for the week, 48 hours for the week, sorry, and a regular work week of 40 hours, it means I work 8 hours overtime. Overtime rate, they will give you what it is. It's either going to be double time or time and a half, or they could tell you something like it's $2 more than my regular, or it's $5 more than my regular. They could put it anyway. You have to be able to read. Have to be able to do what? Read, and read with some understanding. So you have to read the question, make sure you understand the concept. Okay, so let's see if we could work out this person's salary for this particular week. So let's say it's Mary. Let's call this person Mary. So I'm saying Mary works, this is the question now. Mary works a regular week of 40 hours at $6 per hour. Last week, she worked 48 hours with overtime being paid at double time. Overtime being paid at double time. Okay. So the first thing they're gonna ask you for, so what is her basic pay? How did I say we work over basic pay? Is there? Hello, how will I work out her basic pay? It's right here, basic pay, basic pay. Basic rate times the basic hours. Basic pay is basic rate times regular hours. So I'm going to get her basic pay. Basic rate. What was her basic rate? The problem is right here. What's her basic rate? $6 per hour. And what's the regular hour?
40 hours.
40 hours. So it means that I'm going to take 40 times 6, 6 times 0, and 6 times 4, 24. 6 times 4 is 24 people. So her basic pay would have been $240 for the week. Basic pay times regular hour is going to, basic rate times regular hour is going to give me basic pay. Now, we have already seen how we work on the overtime hours. If she worked 48 hours for the week and her regular hours are 40, I'm going to subtract 40 from 48 and I'm going to be left with 8. So they will also ask you, so what's her overtime hours? Overtime hours are 8 hours. You will be asked to work that out. What is the overtime hours? I am taking my total hours worked for the week and I am subtracting my regular hours, and the difference between the regular and the total is going to give me my what? overtime hours. Gonna give me what? Overtime. Now I also have to work my overtime rate. And my overtime rate here is what? Overtime. She worked. Overtime is being paid at?
Double time.
Double time. UUBLE people, please. Overtime is being paid at double time. And double time simply means two times. What double time mean? Two times. So what's the regular rate? $6. So what is 2 times of 6? 12. So her overtime rate is going to be $12 an hour. Overtime rate is $12 per hour. Now I'm gonna have to work out her overtime pay. Overtime pay. And how am I going to get the overtime pay? Overtime rate times overtime. Okay, overtime rate times overtime hours. That's what it is. It's the rate times the hour. So my overtime rate times my overtime hours is going to give me my overtime pay. What did I just say? Overtime rate times overtime hours will give me overtime pay. So what was the overtime rate? $12. And what's the overtime hours?
8 hours.
8. Overtime hours is 8. And who knows what 8 times 12 is? Wow. 8 times 2? 8 times 2? It's 16. 6 carry 1. 8 times 1? 8 plus 1? We gotta go to the tables. We gotta go learn our tables. I gotta keep on saying that. So her overtime pay would have been $96. Now I am going to go to total pay. And for me to get, that's the next question they will ask. So what's her total pay for the week? Total pay. Right here, bring the question over here. Total pay is going to be my basic pay, which was $240, her basic pay, which was $240, plus her overtime pay, which is $96. If I add those two, I'm gonna get 6. 9 and 4 is 13. 3 carry 1. $336 is going to be her total pay. Now let me just go through that one more time. I said the question will ask you all the time for basic pay. Basic pay is my basic rate times my regular hour. As in this case, basic rate is $6, regular hour is 40. 6 times 40, I got 240. They are going to ask you most times to find your overtime hours, because they will tell you what's the regular hour, and then they'll tell you how many hours you work for the week. As in Mary's case, regular hour was 40, but she worked 48 hours. That means there was an overtime hour of 8 hours. They will also ask you to find your overtime rate, and they will tell you exactly how to work out the overtime rate. It's going to be time and a half, it's going to be double time, it's going to be add $5 to the regular rate, whatever the case may be. They will give you the formula, they will tell you what they expect you to do to get your overtime rate. And so this time they said her overtime is being paid at double time. Double means 2 times. So if the regular is 6, double 6 is going to be 12. 2 times 6 is 12. So her overtime rate is $12. And then overtime pay, back to overtime rate times overtime hours. Overtime rate of $12, 8 hours, 8 times 12 is 96. Overtime pay is $96. Then I'm going to have to work out my total pay. Total pay is basic pay plus the overtime pay. My basic pay here was $240 and my overtime pay is 96. 240 plus 96 will give me 336. And gentle people, we must see the work here. Don't just write down some figures there, because I'm seeing figures being written down and no explanation as to how we get the figures. I just see figures coming from here, there, nowhere. I must get an explanation as to how did you get 336. It cannot just come up out of the blue. You understand that? You understand that?